Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. It is Friday, which we could call Flashback Friday, I believe some people call it, which is kind of like Throwback Thursday, which means I can do a theater throwback. And I think I need to because we talked about Chapter 1 yesterday. I saw Chapter 3 and definitely got to talk about Chapter 3, but I like to do things in order, so why don't we jump in the time machine, go back to 2017, and let's talk about Chapter 2. So why don't you pull up a chair, man, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into John Wick Chapter 2. And like I said yesterday, this is one of my favorite action franchises. This is one of my favorite film franchises of all time. I love Keanu Reeves as John Wick. And the other thing that I love about these movies is that they step their game up every single time. Whether you like one movie more than the other, like Rotten Tomatoes has 1, and then 2 is rated higher than 1, and then 3 is rated even higher than both of those. Whether you agree with those rankings, whether you rank them however, you cannot deny that the action and what they pull off in these movies just gets bigger and better. They just continually raise the bar and clear it, and this movie is no different. The action, oh wow, dude, it's big in this movie. And one of the things I didn't mention yesterday, Chad Stileski, the director in all 3 of these movies, has worked with Keanu for a long time because he was a stunt double in a lot of things. The Matrix, The Replacements, the football movie, The Matrix 2, or The Matrix Reloaded, rather. So there is a bond between these two guys, and I'm so glad that there is, because I think because they know each other, because they know what they can accomplish, they're able to not just pull off and choreograph wonderful action set pieces. I mean, we get a sequence with John Wick in Catacombs that will knock your socks off. 2 fight sequences with Common's character, Cassian, that again, just you sit there and you go, wow, like 1, really, really impressive looking sequences. 2, holy cow, Common's doing all of his own action just like Keanu is. And 3, there's like this relationship between their characters that enhances everything that goes on. And there's a moment where they kind of have to stop fighting, and it involves the Continental, but an international Continental. We find out the other thing that's really great about these movies, they build the world really well, and we find out that the Continental is international, and they kind of end up there. They have to stop fighting, and they kind of get a drink. And Common goes, I got these drinks, John. Consider it a professional courtesy. And later on in the movie, when they have their second action set piece, John is able to kind of go, consider this a professional courtesy. It's really cool. So there's humor and there's fun to their stuff. So I love both of their sequences. Another added character, Ares, who's played by Ruby Rose, kind of works for the antagonist in this movie, Santino D'Antonio, played by Riccardo Scamario. And her group of assassins kind of have a fight sequence with him in this art exhibit that's all about mirrors. Oh, man, talk about a fun sequence. But like Ruby Rose brings it too. Like she's doing a lot of her own choreography. They definitely do use a stunt double, I think, for her a couple times. But just the look that she's so striking on screen really creates just wonderful imagery in their fight sequence, and then that whole bit, everything that goes on in that sequence toward the finale of the film. Wow, man, just like stunning visuals, and like I said, the action, choreography, the amount of headshots. Oh, there are so many more headshots in this movie. They just up their game, and I love that about the John Wick universe. And what's cool is that all of these movies are taking place in the course of a couple weeks, and this one picks up like hours after the first one. John's got to go. He kind of has some unfinished business from the first one. He has to go retrieve his car. That's the opening action sequence right away is unbelievable. And the other thing that Keanu and Stileski are really good at, coming up with different ways for John Wick to kill people. Oh man, he kind of utilizes his car in that opening sequence. A contract kind of gets put out on him because of stuff that happens in the movie. So a bunch of assassins are coming at him, and let's just say that there's a payoff where we get to finally see what Mr. John Wick can do with a pencil. Oh, it's wonderful stuff to watch. And like I said, just creative in the ways that John Wick can use his surroundings and his skills and his training to take people on and take people out. The action in this movie is, bar none, some of the best that we've had in the franchise and in the series. And the other thing, too, with these movies, there's a lot of things with these movies that really work. Visually, they are always captivating. I gotta give a huge shout out, man, to Chad Stahelski. He worked with producer buddy David Leitch, as kind of like a co-director. Leitch was uncredited in the first one, but this one is just all him. And he really steps it up, man. Like I said, the action set pieces themselves are a lot bigger, but this movie is just drastically more cinematic. I think being able to go overseas for a little bit and get to utilize different areas and then come back to New York and find cool things to use there. They just get really wonderful shots, and the lighting. You'll notice in all of these John Wick movies, the lighting is so on point, man. It allows you to establish different looks for all of your action set pieces. I mean, there's a stretch where he's in, like a subway terminal that's bright white. Obviously, when he's in the catacombs, it's pretty dark. There's more bluish kind of tinting to stuff at the beginning of the movie in that set piece. There's all sorts of colors and lights popping in that mirror kind of action scene. The way they use lighting in different colors is just beautiful and very, very appealing to watch on screen, mixed with this wonderful action. You can't lose. And then, as I mentioned, the world building is great. I loved learning about markers. I mentioned Santino D'Antonio. This is someone from John's past that comes back at the beginning and basically says, hey, I did a favor for you. And so it's like a blood oath favor. Now it's your turn. And cashing in that chip sets us off on this whole journey that leads John to getting a hit put out on him and all these different things. But like, you learn about these markers, you learn that the Continental is international. Love the International Continental. The one that they go to, it's one of these just small sequences where like John gets like new armor, he gets some knives, he gets some guns, and the way they lay it out, it's just wonderful. But we don't lose the New York Continental. Ian McShane and Lance Reddick are both back. Reddick, Sharon, and then the manager, Winston, played by Ian McShane. Love both of them. We get to learn a little bit more about their stuff and kind of what's going on at the Continental and the way the movie constantly can come back to the Continental. Comes, both the international one and this one a few times, but I love being able to see them. As I mentioned, Ricardo Scamario, who plays D'Antonio, kind of becomes the antagonist in this movie. He's really good. I like the back and forth with him and Wick and the relationship that they had prior, clearly to this, that had something to do with John coming out, which leads to the favor. It just, again, is able to make the story personal. And anytime you can make it personal for John, the motivation is even higher, and it's the things that push him. So I love that aspect of the movie. As I mentioned, Ruby Rose is kind of his right-hand woman. I thought she was nice, not great. She doesn't step up, doesn't bring it the way Common does. But again, like, holds her own, and I like the way they use her. She can't talk in the movie, and I think that works really well in the back and forth that her and John Wick have a couple times in the movie. And like I said, you're filling it with all these rich characters. And at one point after the subway stuff is done, John's pretty beat up, and he just runs to a homeless guy, gives him a coin, and then like hides and is like, "Get me to the Bowery." And the Bowery King, we learn, is kind of like Varys from Game of Thrones, and homeless people in New York work for him, and they're also assassins. So when John has this contract out on him, he knows the Bowery King won't try to kill him, hopefully, maybe help him out. And he goes to one of these guys, and you get to meet Lawrence Fishburne, who runs all these. He's like the Varys. So cool, man. I love Lawrence Fishburne anytime he's in a film. And I just love how big and braggadocious he is, both in stature and just the way he delivers things, man. He knows that he runs the whole city, much like Varys, because he's got all these eyes and ears everywhere. He can just go like this, and things will happen. So I love getting to see him added into this world. Again, just kind of expanding all of the things that you can play with. Give John Wick more toys. And, whether it's characters or different scenes or action set pieces, He gets more toys in this movie, and I loved Lawrence Fishburne. Their interactions are great, and I just really loved seeing this world build. And big shout outs go to Chad Stileski because I think he improved in the director's chair in this movie. And Derek Kolstad, I really dug what he did with the writing in the script because so much of it is filled with action that like the story could be really small, and yet they keep you sucked in, man. You're always intrigued. You're always interested. You want to see where the story goes just as much as you want to see the next action set piece. And that's why these things work so well, man. And when you have a lead like Keanu Reeves, who does all of his own action, makes other people step up to do their own action, it adds realism and it just improves everything. That these movies are just so good. Man, I could watch these things all day. I mean, like I said, when you have choreography like this, and then I'm in it for the headshots, man. There are so many headshots in this movie. Oh, Keanu's just so good as John Wick. I loved John Wick 2, and I can't wait to tell you how much I love John Wick 3 a little bit later. So there you go, man. Those are all my non-spoiler thoughts. Maybe a little bit more chaotic than normal, but there's just, it's one of those things like you're thinking you're talking about John Wick, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I remember this piece, or I remember that piece. So much good stuff. I love these films. I love John Wick Chapter 2. Question is, did you, man? Hit those comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Are you a fan of the John Wick series? Did you like John Wick 2 more than John Wick Chapter 1? Or even if you didn't like it as much as Chapter 1, did you think it stepped its game up? That it brought crazier, cooler, bigger action? These movies don't work for you? Whatever you're thinking, man, hit those comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, you want to come hang along with all the Seaman fun we're doing, you want to see what I think about John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, go hit that subscribe button, man, and hit that little bell so you'll get an alert every time I make a video, including when I post my John Wick Chapter 3 non-spoiler review. You want to see all that, man? Hit those buttons. Yeah, and come hang out, man. We have a good time over at the Cinema Sitdown, and love talking about some John Wick. So for the Seaman's Cinema Sitdown, I'm the Seaman. I'm signing off. Till next time, peace. Well, if you aren't still here, looking for something else to check out that's Seaman related, why don't you check out a video like this guy or this guy? And if you really want to help the Seaman out in year 2, hit that subscribe button and come join the Cinema Sit Down squad, kids. You know what to do. See ya.